Okay, so this is a little issue that I came across that I thought I'd share a solution to, and it's how to create DHCP reservations on a Cisco device for any clients using client identifier, because using the MAC address of the devices is more of a legacy configuration. So I'm going to show you how to do that in this tutorial. This tutorial assumes that you're using a setup, a DHCP pool, configured a bit like this one as an example. So just DHCP pool, a network range, DNS server, default router. Doesn't have to have option 42, which is for NTP, and a lease of 7 days. So a pretty bog standard DHCP pool. But then what you want to do is you want to create reservations for specific devices. Here is one device that I actually managed to resolve this issue for. I'm going to show you on another device. And it's by capturing this client identifier in the format that Cisco wants it to be identified in, which is in hexadecimal. And different devices present their client identifier for DHCP in different ways, and trying to figure out the client identifier for that device can get quite complicated. So this is a simple two-step process for being able to get the client identifier. And the first step is know either which port the device on the switch the device is connected to, or to know the actual MAC address of the device. So in this example, I'm going to be doing resolving this for this Hive Hub device that's connected on port 11. Now, when I take the reason why I need to get the MAC address off of port 11 is so I can see which IP gets leased. So as part of this two-step process, the first step is identify which port or the MAC address, and then as a consequence which port the device is connected to, and then afterwards allow the device to be leased any IP from the DHCP server and identify which IP that is, which is why you need to know either the port or the MAC address, and then the Cisco device will give you the client identifier that you need, and then you can create your reservation. So I suppose it's a three-step process, and then you create your DHCP pool, which is a /32 pool, your reservation, using the identifier that's been displayed on the Cisco device. So I'll show, if that's not clear, I'll show you now. So on this device, gig 0/11 is my Hive Hub. Here's the MAC address. I'll use that to identify which IP within the ARP cache that it currently has. Then, once I have this IP, I can go to my show IP DHCP bindings to look at the DHCP leases. I've got quite a few leases. Now if you take a look at 37, you can see there's quite a long string here, and this display name here is pretty confusing. So it says like client ID, hardware address, username. Basically, for the client identifier, you want to use this whole string. So this is the string. So the Cisco device has taken the client identifier that the Hive Hub has sent to the DHCP server on the Cisco switch, and the Cisco switch is just displaying this in hexadecimal. So I'm going to pull this, I'm going to get this onto one line, and I'm going to build the config required to set the DHCP reservation for this, and then we need to just force this Hive Hub to let go of this 37 address, and I can give it the address that I want to give it. So this method can be a much more simple and much more easy way of just getting the devices onto the IP you want it to be reserved to, rather than trying to figure out what the client identifier of that device is going to be. So I'm going to take this first part of the string, this second part. This all needs to go on one line, by the way. I'm going to show you the config now. So here's the config. So it uses a DHCP pool that has a /32 address that's actually a /32 address of the wider pool already created. So I've already got this data pool, 192.168.00/24. This pool takes a /32 out of that /24, but you still need to keep the subnet mask as /24. Then the client identifier in hexadecimal, which the Cisco device picked up for you. Then the default router, and then any other options that you want to add. And then all we need to do is configure that as a pool. For this client, I already exists. Let's take a look. Server, the server I've got. Okay, so we'll delete the Hive Hub pool that I've got. Okay, this should then go in without any issues. Oh, I think what it's asking me to do is clear the DHCP binding. So do show IP DHCP binding, which is 37. So we'll clear IP DHCP binding 192.168.0.37. Now it lets me put it on. Now all I need to do is just double check which port it was before. It was 11. And what I'm going to do is shut port 11 down. Some devices might require a reboot to let go of the IP they've been leased. Some devices just require the interface bouncing. I'm going to no shut that. And now it's active. You can see here active for 192.168.0.11. So this client identifier. We could ping that IP. If we take a look in the, just to prove it's working, we look in the app cache, we can see the MAC, and we can see that ties back to port 11, and you can see that's the Hive Hub. So again, just to recap, all we're doing, we let the device that we need to create a reservation for pick up a lease off of the Cisco switch or router or Cisco device using its client, and it will use its client identifier to negotiate and get an IP from the DHCP server on the Cisco device. The Cisco device will then present within the DHCP binding table the MAC address in hexadecimal format. We can then get that MAC address in hexadecimal format, and then we can use that to create our own reservation, which is a /32 pool. Like here. So that's pretty much it. Few steps involved, but it can certainly be much more. It can certainly be much easier to do it this way than to try and work out and find out what the client identifier of some devices is going to be. Some devices it's just it's 01 followed by the MAC address of the device. That's with older devices usually. With the newer devices, they use these client identifiers, and it gets much more difficult to work out what it is. So hopefully this helps. Done.